Good afternoon, my friends. Welcome back. For those who don't know, I'm Matt Mikalatos, the author of The Crescent Stone, the book we're reading from, young adult fantasy novel. I'm not going to spend a long time before we jump into the reading today because today we have a little bit longer chapter than usual. I do want to say this, though. When I was a kid, I loved the King Arthur stories, all of them. It didn't matter what it was. It could have been Disney's Sword in the Stone movie, which you may have seen. It could be, I loved the book that was based on is T.H. White's The Once and Future King, which I loved. I read it, I don't know, 100 times. I loved the Christian Detroit medieval stories of the knights. I love Le Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Mallory. Like, I read them all. And one of the things I particularly loved about T.H. White's The Once and Future King was that everybody talks normally. In fact, normally in a way that they should not. Normally, like meaning modern, unless they're in the middle of a fight. And then suddenly it was all King James English. And I just loved that. I don't know why, but you'll see in today's chapter, that's something that I adopted in my book. So everybody's starting to roll in. The Scales say hello. Hello, Scales. How are you? We have our friend Lily Mee is here, and she wants to know, have I read BBC Merlin? I have not. I've had people suggest it to me before, but I have not. I can sense your disapproval through the internet. Anyway, all that to say, where we left off in our story so far was that Madeline and Jason are in a magical land called the Sunlit Lands. They've come because Madeline's been offered a healing if she'll fight these evil bad guys called the Skim. The Skim, they've seen their first battle. Jason was grievously wounded, almost dead during this battle. But Madeline effected a healing for him by sacrificing the life of one of their enemies, one of the Skim, which Jason does not know. And now they are in they're about to go into a thing called the bidding, which is at the end of your first month in the Sunlit Lands. It's the place and the time where the Elenil decide which humans they want to take into their homes, who you're going to work for, where you're going to live. There's a lot of different options. You could be a cook, you could be a servant, you could be a warrior. Madeline is hoping that she won't. Sorry, I'm looking around the house as my rabbit is running back and forth. And my daughter is chasing her, trying to catch her. She's escaping, though. She's practically at my feet. Anyway, where we leave off, Jason and Madeline are actually have just entered into the presence of the Magistrates, which are the leaders of the Elenil. They've been called there for a meeting, Madeline has anyway, and they arrive only to discover that Breakbones, which is a captive Skim soldier that Jason met earlier in the book, who promised Jason that he would do him the honor of killing him, not keeping him as a captive, not dishonoring him in that way, and that he was going to kill his friend Madeline as well, should he meet her, and bring the broken body to Jason. Breakbones is there, is what they discover. So that's where we're picking up in this next chapter. Hello, Patrick. Patrick Fogarty is here. Good to see you. And here we go. We'll dive in. Chapter 17, The Magistrates. Oh, the bunny's coming to say hello. She's been caught. Hello, bunny. That's Kala. Hi, Kala. Hi, everybody. Hi, sweetie. We all love you. Okay, here we go. Ready, Kala? Are you breathing into the microphone? Sweet thing. Okay, here we go. Chapter 17, The Magistrates. Hi. Chapter 17, The Magistrates. Elenil ruled from far-seeing in lands by our master bequeathed. The majestic ones keeps all in his sight. Elenil first, in the warmth of his light, from the ordering of the world, and Elenil's story. Jason yanked on the bird's tail feather several times. There was a bird, by the way, that took them to the top of this tower. "Stop!" the bird said, and knocked him backward with a well-placed wing stroke. Grumbling to himself, Jason pulled out his dial, which apparently worked on birds too, and shrank the bird to parrot size. He paused, then turned the dial all the way to the left, and the bird shrank again to the size of a sparrow. "Now try to knock me over with your wings," Jason said. Madeline's hand was on his arm. He straightened his jacket and tie. "You were neither invited nor summoned," one of the magistrates said. He wore a blue robe and a small gold circlet on his forehead. "You may leave us now." Jason crossed his arms. "Yeah, well, the magic bird says no. Besides, were you invited or summoned?" The Elenil stiffened. "Magistrates are not summoned." Jason shrugged. "Invited, then?" "Certainly not. A time was set. I was made aware of it. I arrived at the appointed time." "That's how I got here," Jason said. "I heard about the meeting. Then I came to the meeting." "Enough," the Archon said. At least Jason assumed he was the Archon, the guy in charge, the boss of the Elenil. He was completely covered by a gold sheet. He looked like a ghost from a poorly done Halloween costume minus the eye holes. Only fancier because he was golden. In Jason's experience, the guy with the goofiest outfit might just be in charge. The Archon continued, "We have gathered with a specific purpose. It is not to banter with children or our lessers." Breakbones sneered at those words. "Let us do this quickly that I may return to the festivities," said another Elenil, this one in a close-fitting silver sheath, his blonde hair braided a wide hat on his head. "We shall take the necessary time," the Archon said. "Do not worry, Basileus Prinel. Your party will await you when we are finished here." "What's the deal with the weird skim?" Jason asked. Prinel bristled. "You forget yourself, human. Show the proper respect. Would you care to be sent back to the human lands?" Madeline gave him a warning look, but Jason put his hands in his pockets and said, "I've lived up to my end of the agreement. Never said I had to be respectful of the Elenil." "You agreed to be in service to us," one of the magistrates hissed. "Respect is demanded as part of your service." "Nope," Jason said. "I never agreed to that. I'm here in service to Madeline." He bowed his head in her direction. "All respect to you, my lady." A moment of furious whispering broke out among the magistrates. "Show us your bracelet," one of them said. Jason pulled up his sleeve, and a magistrate studied his tattoo carefully. "The boy speaks the truth. No pattern here suggests the Elenil are even mentioned in his terms." Breakbones laughed heartily. "Ho, ho, how I like you, Wusong. It pains me that I have promised to deliver your friend's corpse and utterly destroy you." "Promise to what?" Madeline cried. "Long story," Jason said. "Hanali will face brave punishments for this unorthodox recruiting," Prinel said. "Thenity, what say you?" Jason racked his brain. He remembered the name Thenity. Hanali had specifically said to remember that one because that was the Archon's name. "Enough," Archon Thenity said from beneath his golden sheet. "I've said it once. Will you make me say it again?" All fell silent. Thenity sat down in a high-backed chair. "Bring Hanali forward." A door opened in the floor of the tower, and Hanali ascended to the platform, followed by the Knight of the Mirror. Jason got the idea that the Knight's presence was some sort of threat. The Knight's sword was buckled to his belt. No one else in this place carried a weapon. Hanali wore a slight, peaceful smile on his face. Beside them came a small girl no more than 8 years old, who wore a ragged dress and a long swath of cloth wrapped around her eyes. Hanali turned his face toward Jason so the other Elenil could not see him, gave a fierce, furious scowl, and mouthed, "Say nothing." Hanali bowed. "Your most august excellencies." "You are young," Thenity said, "but surely not so young that you would bring a human into the sunlit lands without professions of loyalty." Honnelly's gaze flicked to Jason. An oversight, Excellency. It shall not happen again. It must be admitted that he is, at least, entertaining. Then he sighed. Perhaps he does bring the frustrations of childhood into our presence once again, after all these centuries. Prinnell spoke up again. We've heard rumors among the people that this girl, Madeline Oliver, has been prophesied to bring justice at last to the skim. Is this true? True that you heard it, my lord? I can only assume yes. Do not play games, Honnelly. It is well known that you invent prophecies for your recruits. Honnelly flinched as if struck. Please, Prinnell said, save us the theater. How many girls have you brought to us saying they were messiahs or saviors, warriors or soldiers who would bring justice to the sunlit lands? Honnelly studied his gloved hands. No more than 10. An outraged gasp came from the magistrates. Oh, wait, I've forgotten the twins from the Congo. 12, then. Jason said, What, only girls can save the sunlit lands? Honnelly's eyes bugged wide, his scowl sharp enough to slice a cement block in half. He mouthed, Be silent. Prinnell, sarcasm dripping from his voice, said, Honnelly, 12 is the full number, I presume. You did not do the same thing with your male recruits? In my defense, Your Grace, you did ask how many girls. Very well. How many boys have you brought and done the same? Said they were the ones who would save the world or bring justice to it. Honnelly cleared his throat. 38. That's 50, Jason said. Honnelly gave him an exasperated glare. Madeline said, So, there's not a prophecy about me? She looked relieved, almost ecstatic, but Madeline had told Jason the storyteller had prophesied the same thing. The magistrates clumped together in a tight group, murmuring among themselves. The strange skim stood to the side, keeping a careful eye on Breakbones. Honnelly folded his hands across his stomach. The magic bird fluttered over to the girl with the blindfold and whispered in her ear. The Knight of the Mirror produced a small, handheld mirror from somewhere and gazed at himself with rapt attention. Wow, he was really conceited. There's no prophecy, Madeline whispered. Maybe they'll let us go home. Maybe they'll still let me breathe and send me home, send us home. Honnelly raised an eyebrow. The Elenil follow their agreements to the letter, miss. They'll not return you before the human year passes. Are you in trouble, Honnelly? She whispered. Jason snorted. These people can't get dressed for a party without talking to a prophet. Honnelly will be fine. Madeline punched him in the arm. Show a little compassion. He might really be in danger. The magistrates straightened and resumed their places. Archon Thenity spoke first. Before the magistrates take further action, Honnelly, son of Vivi, we shall consult with an oracle. Jason felt smug. Told ya. However, we will not allow Madeline Oliver to be bid upon tonight. We have certain concerns that our friend Sun's Dance has brought to us. Honnelly inclined his head. I eagerly anticipate hearing his thoughts. The strange skim took hold of his lapels with two massive gray hands. I've heard a rumbling among my people, the skim in this city. It is said the Black Skulls seek a human girl who cannot breathe. It is said they wish to remove her from the court of far seeing. Breakbones spit at Sun's Dance. Traitor. Prinnell sneered at Breakbones. Traitor. Because he has walked out of the darkness and into the light. Because he has left behind a life of poverty. He rejected the foolish excuses of your kind and became something better. Do not judge him for it. The girl with the blindfold spoke. Did I hear Breakbones threaten Madeline Oliver? Is that sufficient evidence the skim seek her death? Breakbones laughed. That is a promise I made to Wu Song and has nothing to do with my people. Madeline raised her eyebrows and looked at Jason. He laughed nervously. Long story, he said again. A story we must needs hear, Prinnell said. Jason sighed. This whole not telling lies thing was getting him in a lot of trouble. I snuck in through a magic door and talked to Breakbones. He said he would kill Madeline before he came to kill me. How did he know of Madeline at all? Honnelly said, his voice high and tight. His eyes twitched. Jason hadn't seen that before, and he thought he had angered Honnelly in every way possible. Jason blushed. I told him I'd come to the Sunlit Lands to protect someone, and he asked me her name, and I told him. Breakbones roared with laughter. He is a strange little beast, is he not? I shall raise a glass in his honor when he is no longer in this world. Madeline's hands curled into fists. Wasn't your promise that you would kill me first? Breakbones grinned. Indeed. I told him I would bring your lifeless body as a warning that his own time had come. Madeline put her arm around Jason. Then he doesn't have much to worry about because a miserable, sad little ogre like you won't stand a chance against me. Breakbones roared with laughter, rattling his chains. Sun's Dance yanked on the metal collar around Breakbones' neck, choking him into silence. You see, my lords, we cannot trust my countrymen to behave like civilized people. They know no better. They are uncouth and vile. They know only darkness, and is it their fault? No, for they do not know the majestic one, having heard only the corrupted tales of our kind. Archon Thenity raised his arms, lifting his golden sheets as if he were a kid on Halloween trying to scare his friends. It seems clear we cannot risk the girl in the bidding. What if the prophecy is true? No. Even Galenia herself would not protect her well enough for my peace of mind. I think she must come to the seat of high seeing and serve in my household. Honnelly swooned with excitement, and Jason grabbed him by his jacket to hold him up. Honnelly said breathlessly, Of course, your greatness. If you think it best for her to serve in your estate, we would be only too happy. She's quite fair for a human and could even pass for an Elenil. More than one Elenil has mistaken her for one of us. See how pale her skin is, and her hair, like gold. She's quite lovely for a human. Madeline was watching Honnelly as if he were a refugee from a mental hospital. What if I prefer not to go with Archon Thenity? Honnelly's eyes flew wide. A joke! Ha ha ha! Ha! He laughed uncomfortably. A joke, Highness! Ha ha! I'm serious. What if I prefer to enter the bidding? I'd rather go with Galenia and learn the art of healing. An art that could be learned in the house of the Archon as well as in Galenia's, Honnelly hissed. Thenity stood. From the look of things, he was trembling beneath his robes. Jason guessed it was a big insult to reject his offer of living at his palace. Some people are so sensitive. You will do as you are told, Thenity said, his voice shaking nearly as badly as his robes, or you will face the consequences of breaking your contract. He made a twisting motion beneath his robes and reached out to Madeline. She gasped and took a wheezing breath. She fell to her knees, struggling to breathe. What is wrong with you? Jason shouted. Let her breathe. It's her own fault, Thenity said, disrespecting me, the leader and head of the Elenil, speaking back to the Archon? She has forfeited her agreement. She cannot treat me thus and expect our magic to treat her well. Jason knocked Honnelly aside and advanced on the Archon. The Knight of the Mirror did not move to intervene. His eyes flickered toward Jason, but then returned to his mirror. Jason grabbed hold of the golden sheet with one hand and swung his other fist at the general location of the Archon's head. Thenity stepped back, pulling his sheet out of Jason's hand. He pointed at Jason, twisted his arm, and said, I will remove your magic as well. Jason punched Archon Thenity in the midsection, and he flew backward, landing in a heap on the ground. Now you're stealing my chocolate pudding? Jason shouted, and leapt toward the pile of golden sheets. But a stunningly fast Elenil in light armor intervened. He threw his arm in front of Jason, catching him just below the neck, and drove him onto the stone floor of the tower. With a two-handed shove, he threw him back against Breakbones. If you strike the Archon again, the Elenil said, I will run the girl through with my own sword. I swear this on my name, Tyrius, and on my title as Polemarch and commander of the armies of the Elenil. Archon Thenity rose, his golden robes disheveled, and moved toward Madeline, who was gasping, her face bright red. Honolly fell to his knees and bowed his head. My lord, surely she has learned her lesson. Not yet, the Archon said, his voice expressionless. He turned toward the knight. What of you? You did not move to protect my person? The knight didn't look up from his mirror. I am sworn to fight the skim. I do not fight my own kind. The Archon drew a furious breath and unleashed a torrent of abuse on the impassive knight. Madeline lay on her back now. Jason had to do something. The Archon was going to let her die like a fish, flopping around on the ground, breathless. He couldn't attack Archon Thenity, not directly, because Tyrius claimed he would kill Madeline himself if Jason made a move. He heard the guttural laughing of Breakbones close behind him. He turned away from the furious monologue of the Archon. What are you laughing at, Breakbones? Your friend dies, and the Elenil war amongst themselves. They brought me here to show you the terrors of the evil skim, and instead, they entertain me. A way out, or at least a chance at a way out, opened up to Jason. He would have to play it just right, though. I took you to be a person of honor. How disappointing to be proved wrong. Breakbone stopped laughing and leaned his wide face closer. His rotten breath, hot and foul, washed over Jason's face. What mean you by this brave insult, Wusong? You told me you were going to kill Madeline and bring me her body, but here you sit letting the Elenil make a liar of you? The smile faded from Breakbone's face. He glanced at Madeline with sudden concern, then to the Archon. He shook the chains on his wrists. These chains prevent me from my oath. Jason frowned. Oh, I didn't realize the word of a skim was worth so little. He pulled the dial out of his pocket. Wondering if this magic dial works on people. Breakbones grinned. Oh, boy. I will rue the day I feast upon your bones. But do not use the magic upon my flesh, but rather these chains. I will save the girl, so that I may slay her later. It only works on animals, not on chains, Jason said, but he touched the dial's casing against the chains and turned the dial to the right. The chains grew larger, and Breakbones slipped his hands free. Jason looked at the dial and the newly gigantic chains. Huh, what do you know? Before standing, Breakbones slammed one massive fist into Sun's Dance's knee, sending him sprawling to the ground. He leapt to his feet with astonishing speed and bounded to Thenity's side, wrapping his great tattooed hands around the Archon's neck. The sheet bunched above the Archon's head, then flared out over his body, making him look a lot like a badminton shuttlecock. The Archon's tirade cut off mid-word. The Knight of the Mirror drew his sword. Ah! Have a care, Sir Knight, lest I squeeze the Archon in fright, Breakbone said. He shook the body beneath its golden sheet. Release thou the girl, O valiant soul. The Archon, trembling, twisted his hands. Madeline gasped as air flooded her lungs again. Leave the magistrates unharmed, and I will allow you a 5-minute lead, the Knight of the Mirror said. Then I must follow and destroy you. Sporting, sir, Breakbone said. Sporting indeed. 5 minutes? I could not even exit this grand building. No, I think another plan will be necessary. First, throw your sword from the tower. The knight hesitated, then did as he was told. The sound of metal clanking against stone echoed up to them as the sword bounced against the tower, and then silence. Nothing can be taken from my hand unless I allow it, the knight said. It is a boon granted me some years ago. Breakbones nodded. I have heard tales of that magic. I give my word I will escort you safely to Skim territory. I will put my hand upon your arm. Your life will be in my hands, and none but I could take it. Only release Archon Thenity. Breakbones grinned. Your word, I trust, sir. And Wu Song's. Perhaps the girl, should Wu Song vouch for her. The rest of these here, I would sooner trust a hungry wolf to guard my pigs. No, I have a plan in mind that will serve me better. He pulled the Archon close against his chest, and there was a distressed yelp from beneath the golden sheets. Madeline, still gasping and on her knees, looked up. What are you going to do, Breakbones? Breakbones looked to the night. Give me your word that neither you nor any here shall leave this tower until I am safely beyond the city walls. You have it, the knight said, so long as you promise on your honor not to murder any citizen of the Elenil, nor any human on your exit. Done, the skim said triumphantly. Now, Wu Song, lend me that bird you have shrunk, that I might send word when I am safe. It's not my bird, Jason said. Jason noticed Tyrius shake his head fast when Breakbones wasn't watching. Tyrius was meant to be the head of the Elenil army, but he hadn't done anything to help so far. The bird said, I will not help you, Breakbones. Indeed, as soon as you leave this place, I will fly to find the guardians of the city, and we will fight you from here to the city wall. If all goes well, you will be in chains again in 1 hour's time. Oh, I feared you would make some foolish speech, Breakbone said. So I am forced to make a hard choice. He looked around at the gathered magistrates, the Archon struggling weakly in his massive hands. Are there no healers here on the tower top? The girl in the blindfold spoke. None, save Madeline. She has not been trained. Breakbones turned his back to the Elenil, and with swift motions he folded Archon Thenity in unnatural directions, snapping appendages and collapsing ribs. He dropped the magistrate's still form in front of Tyrius. Jason's stomach lurched. He was thankful suddenly for the sheet, but even so, he could tell what lay beneath was piled in a horrible shape. A keening cry came from beneath the golden covering. He will not die, Breakbones said, so long as the bird goes for a healer rather than for the army. So I have kept my word. He bowed to Madeline. You I shall see again. Then to Jason. You have the heart of a skim warrior. I give you humble thanks for my release. He leapt from the side. Jason ran to the edge in time to see Breakbones grab the tower, his thick arms straining as they arrested his descent. He climbed down with unbelievable speed, then loped across the plain below. Fly and warn the army, Tyrius shouted to the bird. Shame, the knight said. Shame on you, and all the magistrates, if the life of one skim is worth more than the life of the Archon. First among equals. The city will hear of this. They will speak of it for decades to come. Prinel put his hand on Tyrius's arm. It is true, Tyrius. The Archon must come first. Tyrius shouted in rage. Breakbones was nearly to the exit now. A healer first, and then the army. Fly with all speed, bird. The bird fell like lightning from the tower, then extended its wings and flew. Now there is nothing to do but wait, Prinel said, crouching beside the Archon. He reached out a hand toward the golden cloth, then withdrew it. Honolly cleared his throat. If I may be so bold, it makes a great deal of sense to me that Madeline Oliver go to live with one of the 9 magistrates. Tyrius barked a laugh. Will you send the human traitor with her, too? He released a skim upon us. He was killing my friend, Jason shouted. He wasn't going to let that happen. He wasn't going to stand by and wring his hands when Madeline was in danger. If that meant folding the Archon down small enough to fit in a suitcase, so be it. If that meant unleashing Breakbones on the world, that's what he would do. He didn't regret it, not for a moment. He is the lord of the Elenil and thus your master. He can do as he pleases, Prinel snapped. My master? Jason stalked over to the pile of golden sheets and before anyone could stop him, grabbed hold of the fabric and prepared to yank it off. I'm not anyone's slave. I'll throw him off this tower before I'll... Jason, stop, Madeline shouted. Her voice stunned him. Her face was pale and creased with worry. He wouldn't really have thrown the Archon off the tower, at least he didn't think so. He'd been doing the right thing, protecting Madeline. It infuriated him to have that questioned. He wouldn't have thrown him off the tower, though. They shouldn't have said the Archon was his master. He wasn't some slave. He wasn't here to serve the Elenil. He was here for Madeline, pure and simple. But it was Madeline telling him to stop now. He dropped the sheet. He's not my master, Jason said. Also, he better turn my pudding delivery back on, or I will drop him off a tower. Well, Prindle said mildly, it seems clear the Archon's estate will not be a safe home for these humans. Tyrius watched Jason closely. He could not have harmed Thenity much. He has the anger of a warrior. Perhaps I will take him on, train him together with Rondello. The girl in the blindfold spoke. The skim will target Madeline, this much seems clear. To put her with the magistrates increases the risk to her and to them. The Knight of the Mirror should take her. Nothing can be taken from his hand unless he wills it. She'll be safe in his household. Tyrius rubbed his chin. An elegant solution, and delivered by a seer. What say you, Sir Knight? The knight gazed into the mirror, murmuring to himself. After a long moment, he turned his attention to the Elenil. I will take the girl under my protection. She will serve out her contract with me, in obedience to the Elenil, and according to the terms of her bargain. And me, Jason blurted. The knight shook his head. You are too unpredictable and unwise. Cannot take you into my home. The blindfolded girl tugged on his sleeve. He leaned down and she whispered in his ear. His face, stony and impassive, did not change when he straightened. I will take the girl, he said. And also the fool. Jason sputtered. The fool? Hanali whispered in his ear. Bow, fool, if you wish to stay with Madeline. So Jason bowed. And Madeline curtsied, and just then a healer came rushing up the stairs, and the bird told them the skim warrior had left the city much faster than the city guard could be alerted. Released from the knight's agreement with Breakbones, Hanali grabbed Jason and Madeline by the arms and pulled them to the winding stairwell that led down alongside the outer wall of the tower. Hanali went first. Madeline descended, holding her skirts with one hand and Hanali's shoulder with the other to keep herself from being pushed off the stairs by her voluminous dress. Jason followed. That could have gone worse, Hanali said when they were at the bottom, mopping his brow with a handkerchief. He gave Jason a dark glare. It could have gone much better. That seemed like a fitting motto for Jason's entire time in the Sunlit Lands so far. The end of chapter 17. Ha, ha, ha. All right, we will pick up with chapter 18 tomorrow. It's another long one, so we'll jump in pretty quick. Dr. Awesome says, I feel like I should be having Crescent Stone dreams by now with all this regular reading, hoping for unicorns. Me too. That would be awesome. And then Lily Me says, oh, Jason, that promise, tear. Oh, no. Spoilers about the future for sure. Okay, my friends, do not forget this Friday at 1 Pacific, author Jen Reese will be joining us to talk about her fantastic book, A Game of Fox and Squirrels. So you will get to meet her on Friday. She's quite excited. She was on the show yesterday. Well, she dropped by and listened anyway. So don't forget that. Tyndale.com is still taking orders and sending books. If you're looking for Crescent Stone or any of the other books they sell, they have those available. I have had some issues recently with other booksellers I use not being able to get their books out the door. But Tyndale is still doing that. Of course, the Crescent Stone, narrated by a professional, is available from Oasis Audio at oasisaudio.com. And as always, don't forget to like, to comment, or subscribe. Every time you like one of these posts, whether on YouTube or on Facebook, every time you leave a comment, it helps other people find this content, and it helps them to have a better day. because they get to join us and hang out, and we're awesome. That's why. And obviously, when you subscribe, it makes it a little easier to find these broadcasts when they come out. Okay, let's see. 2 more comments before we leave. Lily Me says, I think I am having Crescent Stone dreams. Oh, really? Well, we would like to hear about that in the future. And the Scales family wants to know, do all the healers heal in the same way, as in, do they heal by taking life from another? This is an insightful and excellent question that I don't want to answer right now, as there could be spoilers not only for this book, but the next. So stay tuned. That is a question that will be answered in a decent amount of detail, actually. So, all right, my friends, thank you so much. Be safe. Take care of yourselves and one another, and I will see you tomorrow. Have a great day. Goodbye.